Alright, so I have my pots, I have my seeds, and inside the pots, just because I had a lot of bark chips, I just laid a thin, small layer to prevent soil from running out the bottom and tacked a little bit as filler because I think these pots are probably deeper than I need them to be. And then over here, I have about a 1-to-1 mix. Maybe not quite 1-to-1, but I've got some potting mix, and then I have dug some soil out of that bed from my garden, from the garden bed for the potting mix. So that way it should have some native bacterium in it. It should have, there's probably definitely worms in there, but basically the bacteria and soil microbiotic community is what I want to help get the seeds germinating into something that will be similar to the ground that I'm planting them into. I don't know if there's any science behind that, but it kind of makes sense to me, so that's why I'm doing it. Next, I'm going to load the soil up into the pots and wet it down, and then I will plant the seeds into the pots and then cover them again with a thin layer of soil and wet them down one more time. Alright, I filled up my pots, and I filled them pretty much all the way up. Number one, because I had that much soil to use, and number two, because I know these are going to sink down. As soon as I get them wet, they're probably going to come down pretty substantially. The potting mix you get from the big box stores are really dry, and they suck up a lot of water when you get them wet, and they definitely will settle a lot, which is why I filled them up all the way first. Depending on how much they sink down, well, probably no matter what, I'll probably need to mix up more of my potting mix. So I'm going to do that next. I'm going to get these wet and see what happens. Alright, so let's see. Some of these definitely settled more than others, but there's first wetting. Probably I will plant right into this and place just a little bit of that topsoil over the top. Maybe I'll add a little bit more to that one right there since it's a little low, but these probably could settle down more, but I'm gonna, yeah, you see how much that went down? This stuff is like a sponge. So these will probably settle down. I'll probably plant over the top of them, and then I'll add another layer and give it a good tamping down just to make sure it stays nice and moist. Alright, so as we get into talking about seeds, probably a few things that are important to know that are unique about the process of planting some of these native species compared to just vegetable garden seeds. And that is because these seeds are native, they're adapted to local conditions, which usually means going through a cool, moist winter before they're able to germinate in the spring. So for that reason, they need to undergo a process called cold stratification, which is basically what I just described, having a period of cold, moist conditions prior to the weather warming up. So these seeds I've ordered from nearby local nursery. It's called Willamette Wildings. I'm in the southern Willamette Valley, and these folks are in Cresswell, and they seem to do a pretty good job of sourcing their native seed and keeping it only a few generations away from what grows in the wild. So that's really good in terms of having locally adapted genetics for my particular area. And not all of these need to undergo cold stratification, but most of them have handy instructions on the back and indicate that some exposure to cool temperature will benefit germination. So all of these, I have 8 seeds here. I've got Romer's fescue, 2 different kinds of checker mallow. I've got rosy checker mallow and meadow checker mallow. I've got showy milkweed and also Oregon sunshine, Oregon iris, a common camas, and western columbine. And not all of these seeds require the same length of cold stratification or any cold stratification at all. But the way I'm going to do it, there's different ways you could do it, basically, to get that cold stratification period in, or to mimic native natural conditions. One is just to do your seeding in the fall right into the area where you want the seeds to be. But I just ordered these seeds this winter. I only got them a week or 2 ago, and I was really excited to get them. But it's mid-January for me now, so I can't direct seed. Additionally, I had those shrubs in the side yard. There was no way I was going to be able to get those seeds into the ground where they needed to be when they needed to be there. So that's why I'm doing them in pots. And because I'm kind of lazy, I'm going to be seeding many seeds into each of these pots, and I'm just going to set them out in my yard somewhere where they won't kill the grass. And I'm just going to let them get whatever the weather is from mid-January until all summer. We'll see what works, we'll see what comes up, we'll see when it comes up, and as the pots get crowded, I'm going to transfer them into smaller pots that will be a little bit more individually suited. And I'm going to let them go all season, and in the meantime the side yard will be solarizing. I'll be digging competing bulbs out of the way, so hopefully come fall I'll have a nice sterile environment to then transplant these pots into. A lot of these plants are perennials. They'll store their energy in their roots, and then when spring comes around again, they'll use the sugars that they accumulated the previous summer to send up new plants. So they don't require replanting and they don't require reseeding like an annual would, but they will die back every fall. At least most of them. The fescue and the iris are likely to stay green all year. Yeah, so basically I'm going to treat them all the same. They probably won't respond all the same, so it'll be a little bit of an experiment seeing what happens. Additionally, because it's kind of an experiment, I'm not going to plant the whole packet. That would be way too many seeds for the volume of soil I have in these pots. And also just because I do want to be able to have some seed ready to direct seed in the fall once the area is prepared. But because some of these, like I mentioned, they're perennials that store their energy in their roots, so because they're growing both above ground and below ground, some of them take a longer time to get established and really develop enough energy stores to send a full-size plant up that has flowers. And because it takes a couple seasons, the ones I'm going to plant today will get a head start. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll be planting a few seeds into each pot, and then I'll cover it up with the topsoil in the bucket, and I'll probably talk a little bit about each seed as we go. Alright, these are Romer's fescue seeds. This is the Romer's fescue pot. These are perennial bunch grass. These should, once they get established, stay nice in a pretty blue-green grass tuft all year round. The packet said to use a small pinch. This is maybe a little bit of a moderate pinch, but I'm going to scatter these around and mix them into the surface before adding another layer on top. So let's just do a little bit of scattering over the top. I think the bag said some of these are benefited by getting some light during their germination process. So now I'm gonna kind of make sure they're well scattered around the surface and get them more or less evenly distributed over the top. just like that. And then I'll do a real light covering of soil over the top of these. Alright, these are the Western Columbine seeds. They're black little seeds. This is the Western Columbine pot, and same deal. I'm just going to scatter them lightly. This the packet said about 5 to 10 seeds per pot. I don't know how big of a pot they were thinking of, but there's definitely more than 5 to 10 seeds in there. We'll see how it goes. Alright, now we got meadow checker mallow. These are the seeds. They kind of got a neat little like snail shell look to them. Again, this is one where the packet says 5 to 10. This is a plant that can get about to be 4 foot tall when it's full grown and fully established. So this one, we'll see what happens this year. I don't know how fast it grows or how slow it grows. If we need to thin, I'll probably try to thin into more of those pots and keep them going. But for now, we'll just try to do a light scattering over the top of this. I kind of got some too much over there. I'll just kind of poke them around. This is a neat species. Checker mallows are really pretty. They're also sometimes known, I think, known as hollyhocks. This particular species is native to the Willamette Valley, but it is really becoming uncommon in the native habitats due to habitat loss for suburban development, wineries, flood control, lack of wet meadows and whatnot. So yeah, it's a little bit imperiled in the wild. It will be good to try to get some growing in my yard. I'll squish that down and probably give it a good covering with more soil from the tub. Okay, checker mallow number 2. This is rosy checker mallow. Its seeds look pretty much exactly the same, maybe a little bit greener. This checker mallow is more common. It does not grow as tall. It grows to be about 2 feet tall. And otherwise it's same family as the other checker mallow. They're both kind of wet to dry upland meadow species native to the Willamette Valley. So same deal. Here we go. Again, another 5 to 10 seeds per pot, but we got more than that. Alright, common camas. The seeds look pretty similar to the Western Columbine seeds. The packet on this one recommends a spacing of about 5 to 7 per pot. These ones form bulbs as they mature and have a little bit of deeper rooting, I believe. So not sure exactly how long it will take before they'll get to that point. Again, I'll have the ability to separate them as they get bigger, but yeah, we'll see. There's a couple different species of camas native to the Willamette Valley. Most are kind of associated with wetter areas. Mine will probably be a little bit hotter and drier, more similar to an upland meadow. And common camas can usually tolerate a little bit of drier conditions. So that's what I'm growing here. Oregon iris, iris 10X. 10X meaning tough because the little thin grass-like leaves these things put up are pretty sturdy, and I guess were traditionally used by native peoples to, and still are used by native peoples to weave baskets and things like that. Pretty big seeds. These ones were 6 to 8 according to the packet per pot. I don't know, probably twice that here. These are a little bit more woodland adapted. They can do shade or sun, kind of like the columbine, which I don't think I said when I filmed the columbine seeds. In any case, I'll probably plant these along the edges of my side yard that get a little bit more shade, but here we go. Good luck, little iris seeds. Iris flowers, native iris flowers are my favorite flower. I think they're just so gorgeous. They're a little more narrow petaled than the traditional cultivated irises, and I think they are stunning. Alrighty, Oregon Sunshine. I think it said Eriophyllum. Oh, I don't know the last part. Eriophyllum. Anyway, I think these won the award for the tiniest seeds. These are itty bitty. These are tenacious little sunny yellow flower that pops up just about everywhere in native prairies. They kind of like it a little bit drier than other sites, so we'll keep this one in a sunny spot when it's time to go into the ground. This one's at a small pinch. This is maybe again a little bit of a medium pinch, we'll see. And my hand's a little bit moist, so I don't know what we're gonna do for getting these off of my hand. Maybe I'll just do that and hope there's still some seeds on there. Well, I'll have to tamp this around and make sure I get all those seeds off my hand. Okay, last but not least, we have milkweed. This is showy milkweed, and it wins the award for largest seeds of the ones I'm planting today. There's a couple different kinds of milkweed. I think I don't recall if I said this is showy milkweed. It's the host species for the monarch butterfly. I think we're probably right at the northernmost end of the monarch butterfly's range in the native extent of showy milkweed, at least on the western half of the United States. Yeah, here we go. This one, in addition to the monarch butterfly, definitely is a good pollinator plant for a bunch of different butterflies. So I think the packet shows some sort of swallowtail butterfly. Yeah, so it'll be good. Give it a good kind of mixing in, tamping it down, just to ensure good contact with moisture and make sure none of those seeds get trapped in an air pocket or anything like that. Nothing stuck to my hand. I'll add the last little bit of soil in here and we'll get these all watered. Alright, there they all are. You can see I've kind of got them oriented around my herb garden. They're encompassing my rosemary. Hopefully the rosemary won't release any chemical plant signals that interfere with their germination anyway. I don't expect so. They're kind of under the shelter of this corner of my little covered area, but they'll definitely be getting catching all the rain that comes, and there's no immediate shade around them. Maybe that tree at certain parts in the morning, but they should be getting pretty much similar light that they'll be getting on the side yard of my house. So I added a thin layer of soil to the tops of all of them, and now I'm going to be getting some water going here and give them a nice little soak, just to make sure they get all nice and wet. There you go. We should be getting some cold temperatures here this next week. They're predicting some potential for freezing temperatures, so hopefully that won't be too much for any of these guys, but I'm hoping it will be good for the cold part of the cold stratification. And since I'm getting these started a little late, I'm hoping a little bit of a weather jolt might help with that germination. So we'll see. Now all I have to do between now and when they go in the ground is hopefully just do my best to forget about them and not check them or mess with them too much, but just let them experience the natural weather, and maybe we'll check in late spring, early summer and kind of see if any of these need to be transplanted into their own pots. But that's it. Tape will help me remember which one's what and know how to treat them, and I'm hoping that using my native soil over there in the garden bed won't introduce too many confusing weeds or other little things popping up, but we'll see. Keep you updated. All right. 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 Alrighty. All right.